Welcome to Honesty. This time I have an exhibition of Point Contemporary, which was a solo exhibition of mine celebrating 10 years of Dotart. 10 years prior I started Dotart as an art concept where the observers finish each work with a marker. After the first minute of this video, I include a segment of a guided tour by me where I'm talking about each piece in depth. The only thing is, at that time when I recorded it, I didn't know I will have this YouTube channel, so the sound quality is not the best. It's a little bit quiet, so to enjoy, please turn up your volume and you will be able to hear most of it, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. This is the first guided tour at Point Contemporary in Budapest of an exhibition called Dotart Decade, celebrating 10 years of Dotart. Dotart started almost today 10 years ago with this piece behind me, which is the first Dotart work following a vision I had, putting 1 hour worth of information on a defined space in a circle, and this is a little bit more now than an hour because this piece was exhibited 2 times after I created this in my Toronto studio. So now it has more. Actually, there is a little uniqueness. There is a red heart here, and Happy Mother's Day because the New York show happened to follow on Mother's Day as well, and I changed the marker on all Dotart that day to red marker, which I will able to point out on other pieces. This just by me putting some red on this piece at that particular day. This painting behind me, it's called Dot of Life, Dotart Women's Self-Portrait. It's a new series started growing out of Dotart at the later stage in 2015, so a year later. This piece was exhibited in Los Angeles. The radius the chain created was obviously on purpose smaller because I knew the attendance was not going to be that big. It wasn't that busy of a show, so it's a few, maybe couple of hundred people who worked on this and duration of that show. These faces are still screened around, and why it's also called self-portrait because it's a long story. However, on this one, the magenta footprints are my footprints stepping on the canvas, middle of the canvas when I painted the piece. Dotart needs huge participation. More people are better. A good example of that is these paintings behind me. This 8-piece comes from Sziget Festival 2019. The title was All is One. And each of these pieces was created by thousands of people. And you can kind of get the different layers of markings, of the notes, and signs, and drawings, designs what people attend to leave. And after a certain time, 9 days I believe it was, it comes to be a unit of information just like every other Dotart. That oneness comes more visible with time. That's what this philosophy is all about. And there is this painting. Okay, let's jump to this one. This is most extreme, the largest participation so far. It's about 100,000 people over 7 months during the Venice Biennale in 2017. And it was placed on an installation surrounded with the totem woman. That's another story, another series I will exhibit at some later time. For now, what we need to know, this is what people did over 7 months in Venice. Dotart is a time capsule. It's also a mandala. It's a unit of information, what shows the present time, the state of mind the people are, and the situation, what's outside the museum walls or the exhibition hall walls. It's a good example of this is this one. This piece called Ma, because it started the word Ma, written on the canvas by me. That's it. That's what it was. That's how I started before I sent the piece to Palermo to a Biennale. And the Biennale happened to be 2015, January and February, that time period, when the famous or infamous terror attack happened, unfortunately, at Charlie Hebdo headquarters in Paris, France, when a retaliation of the cartoon, they criticized or ridiculed Mohammed. This was the retaliation to that. And that was in the air, that was the time, so it's kind of a mess, the whole piece. There are different interesting things on this piece. What people write even on the edges. This is the only one which has writing on the edges. I wasn't there, so I had no control. You can see the marker was correctly installed, some time of the show. There is a fainted wick radius here, which was created that way, and probably some marks were done the proper way. But you can't tell because the chain was moved, or the marker was moved, I should say, at one point, and then people just did whatever they want all over the place. This piece here, originally it was called Life Marks, and it was painted in 1995 in Toronto. Then later it was exhibited in Miami as a dot art with this radius to the nearest edge of the piece, and that's what people did during a 9 days show, an art fair. And the interesting part, beside, I think it's very nice what they did, made the painting way better. At the end of the show, at the closing act, I asked a famous artist, New York-based artist, Whitney V. Hunter, who is an African-American person and a dancer as well. I asked him to be kind to do whatever he wants on these with the marker. So he drew himself as a silhouette on top of the piece. At least he tried. It almost turned to be a dance. It's beautiful. And then accidentally the marker came off, and when it did, I told him, just don't worry, do whatever you want. And then he came out of the radius, out of the dot, and drew his head around, and then he tried to draw his leg around the piece as well as a final act. Why it's important to me, because this is 2014 December, that's the start of Black Lives Matter, and also the Hands Up, I Can't Breathe movement, when North America, especially the United States, was really angered by the murder of Eric Garner by the police, who died on the streets by police force. It was, it's a sad story, choked to death on the street. And so that's what kind of the final act of this piece remembered and was dedicated to. That show was the end of a triptych. So the triptych is a piece containing 3 artworks from different paintings. This 4 is one of them. This 4 was the first dot art show I had in Toronto 2014, soon after I did my first dot. And then I decided, okay, since this is the philosophy of time, space, life, I will do 3 paintings and call it the world's largest painting, because this is the second part of the triptych. A month later, I believe in June or May. No, this was in May actually. In May. So that's April, this is May. A month later in New York, I had these 3 pieces. With, among other pieces, these are selected pieces from different shows. So I'm showing these 3 as the second unit of the triptych, and this is the third one from Miami. 2 Dotart, created in Miami, 9 months after the first show in Toronto. So 3, the third one, the second, and the first. And this is how the triptych is set up. And the size of the triptych is big. The larger dimension is the distance between Toronto and Miami. The first pieces were done in Toronto, then the second in New York, and the third one in Miami. So since it's a philosophy, as I mentioned, of time, space, life, this is the information of how it's all meant to be, the world's largest piece. By the way, here is how originally life marks looked in 1995, before it became Dotart. So last but not least, I like to show these 3 paintings, which are the 3 gracias I mentioned at that point with that painting. The dot of life, self-portrait, Dotart women, the silver screen faces. And this is where they are all coming from. From this piece, which was exhibited in Paris in the Louvre during an art show. And this is the few people who participated on this piece, what they did. This was the 3 gracias. These are 3 portraits of women. I knew a show coming up, one in Barcelona, another one in Rome, and the third one in Paris. So for each show, I painted feminine portraits, female portraits in different style, a little bit in the style of the city. And the first piece to Barcelona, I just started in my Toronto studio before I sent her away with a happy face. The second one with the cartoonish message, Ciao Bella, over her face. And this one is Je t'aime. Before I wrote Je t'aime on it, as I sent her away, I did a good quality photograph, and I made a screen, which I'm using since as a silk screen. And she's been repeated hundreds of times now, and matter of fact, she's the base for the life sculpts later, my sculptures, which I did during the pandemic. So this is pretty much what I like to share, and I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Thank you.